Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Author Spotlight. This week, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about, instead of an author, we're going to talk about several authors under this one publication that we found that we have really enjoyed so far. It's called Zuiker Press, and it's actually created by Anthony Zuiker, the man who created the CSI franchise on TV. So he got together with his wife, and they put together this publication for young people by young people. So his wife, her name escapes me at the moment, but she is a retired teacher, and she's connected so well with her students. She wanted to give them an avenue to share their stories. So all of these books are graphic novels, and they come from a series of interviews with these kids that have gone through traumatic experiences or inspiring experiences, and they turn them into inspiring stories, and it's really beautiful. So you can actually find the interviews for these books and like a bunch of supplemental material on zuikerpress.com. And so the first one I have is Colorblind, a Story of Racism by Jonathan Harris. It's a beautiful story that uses many layered metaphors and tells his story about how he had to come to terms with racism and how he had his own traumatic experiences, and he found his own way to overcome it through soccer and through looking at people's culture instead of the color of their skin. So it's a really good one. And then Click is a story of cyberbullying, and it's so sad, guys. She's only 12 years old when she is so badly cyberbullied, because bullying has always been around, but I think it's worse now because it's everywhere, and you can't turn it off.
So easy to do.
And you can't escape it.
Yeah.
And I never heard of this app until I read this before, but there's something called Post Ghost, and you can post anything you want anonymously.
Dangerous.
Yes, extremely dangerous. And these three girls make her life a living hell. And she says she wrote this book for the many kids who could not make it through. So the art is also absolutely beautiful. You've got her standing in a cemetery with a bunch of broken cell phones, and she said, sadly, most people don't make it through. She said this book is for them, and she made it through. And it's beautiful how she does it, how she learns to take back the control over her own life simply by just logging out of those chat rooms and remembering that she controls her life, not them. So. And
Yeah.
she just flips the script on that. So it's absolutely gorgeous. And again, the art is great. What I really love about comic books and graphic novels is they can take the words and give you a deeper, better experience with them because they really bring them to life.
Yeah. Show them the picture on the back of the girl.
So
you
here
can
is
see
the comic rendering. And then here is the real girl, and she is 17, and in the story, she's only 12 years old. Another great thing about these books is there's information inside for for kids who are dealing with these issues to reach out to someone for help. The first one I ever read from Zuiker Press is Imperfect, a Story of Body Image by Dunya Awada, and I really resonated with this one. Again, the art is really gorgeous. Just simple but very powerful imagery, and she deals with body dysmorphic disorder, and she runs the gamut of all of the body disorders from skinny to not so skinny, and she ends up going from anorexia to bulimia, like extreme bulimia, and she tells her story about how she came back from it, but like I said, the pictures are just good. There's the devil holding back her hair as she is retching into the toilet. So yeah. It's really powerful stuff, and I learned from this that now they're starting to make changes with insurance companies, but before it was a
pre-existing
condition, and insurance companies, her parents had to go through 2 years of absolute hell trying to get the insurance companies to cover the help she needed, to get her the help she needed. And this girl I think she was 16 at the time, so she's much older now. I think she's 23 now. but she's actually started a foundation to create clinics for kids who need the help. So all of these are very powerful stories. Which one did you read?
I had Mend. It's a story of divorce. And the imagery, like she's saying, is beautiful. Like there's, for half of the book, she's cut in half. There's like a line down her middle because
Wow.
she says in the beginning, like, my heart was ripped in two by the people I love the most, Mom and Dad. And she's in 8th grade at the end, so she was young. She was like 8 when it started. And she's talking about how she heard her parents fighting and she didn't know if she was supposed to go and stop it or act like she didn't hear it. But they had a happy ending. Her parents didn't get back together, but they're coping with it and being part of her life, both of them together, which is what she needed.
Yeah.
So it was really good.
That sounds good. I mean, all these stories sound really good, and it might not be something that you're familiar with, but there is somebody you know who's dealing with it.
Yeah.
So
And it's important that these things are spoken about because whether or not you see it, it's around you, and it's nothing to be ashamed of if you have any of these things. It's important to encourage a conversation so things can be done about it because
Yes.
everyone gets bullied at some point, but that doesn't mean that it needs to happen. It doesn't mean that we can't stop it from happening, and it's just people talking about it that's going to make it stop. So
Most people won't talk about it either.
Yeah.
They'll keep it in, and they'll let them poison them from the
yeah, it
inside.
starts to feel like it's something shameful that's happening to you or someone you know, and it shouldn't be.
And all the libraries are safe place. They're all safe places, so if anything is happening to you, come and talk to us.
You can come be here and be safe.
Yes.
And we will help you. Okay, so I picked up one called Activist. It's interesting. I mean, these are all real kids, but this is actually like a real famous kid that you may have heard of, which is Lauren Hogg. She was a survivor from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting that was in Parkland, Florida in 2018. So it starts out at the beginning where she's talking about how her mother was an activist, and so she feels like it was in her blood, like she was taught that you should speak up for what you think is right. And then her dad was an FBI agent, how they go to school that day, it's Valentine's Day, she had cookies that she brought her friends, and they had a fire drill, or like a shooting drill, you know, where they were pretending like there was a shooter in the school, an active shooter, and they were like, this is what you do, guys. So they had a drill that morning, and then she goes back to class, and then they hear the alarm again, and she goes back outside, and she sees people screaming and stuff, and she's like, this is real, like, and she didn't know what to do, and just felt like so much grief over what was happening. You know, they're texting each other and just like live streaming the event while it's happening. They can see on their phones. And so she goes back in, she hides in a classroom with a bunch of kids, and it just is really horrible. And so it talks about how she deals with her grief for that, and then how she gets her start becoming her own activist, and she uses that grief to get the courage to speak up. She said that their principal, they didn't have school for 2 weeks, and then they went back, and the principal was like, okay, we're going to walk out to the football field and have 17 minutes of silence, because they lost 17 teens that day. And she was like, that's what we're doing? Like, that's not enough. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't make any change. And so her brother, she lost her 2 best friends that day. So she and her brother and a bunch of the other kids, you know, were on CNN. They were interviewed. They went and spoke before Congress and everything to try to make changes, and they're still working on that. So
they organized something called like March for Your Life.
Yeah, she uses social media. She talks about how you know, she's just a kid and she can't necessarily not be at school or, you know, do all the things an adult might be able to do, but she does have her phone and she can be active on social media, and so she does do that. Talks about that quite a bit. So yeah, I thought it was a really good story, and she's still working. I was just like, go girl.
I like
change.
that they picked
Isn't
the
she
graphic
cute?
novel
She's
form
adorable.
too.
Oh, there's a new one. Identity.
Yeah, there's a few more coming out, and we have purchased them, right? So
Yes, we did.
we'll have them all.
I can't wait to read them.
I know. All these books are dedicated to every young person who needs to be reminded they're not alone. Hope lies within these pages. And then they talk in the beginning of each book. There's the lady that you couldn't remember. Shannon Lively. It says she's still teaching 5th grade.
Oh, I thought she was.
And then it has photos of the actual people who wrote them.
Yes, when
in
you go
their
to the
life,
end.
And then supplemental information in the back
Yes.
about like making a stand, getting help, information about the founders, and then the illustrators and editors.
A lot of work
So,
goes into these.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
I love it too. When you visit the website, you can go to each book, and then if you scroll down underneath, there's interviews with the author, with the author's family, and you get all the different perspectives.
That's very cool.
All right, guys, so we hope that you will check out these graphic novels, and we'll feature another author next time.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.